You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. 17 BRICS Summit issues joint declaration, commits to unity, equality, cooperation and reform for peace, inclusive growth, sustainable development and a fairer global order. World leaders at BRICS Summit strongly condemn all acts of terrorism, denouncing the Pahalgam terror attack in Kashmir. US President Trump says good chance of a hostage deal as he will hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister in Washington. Netanyahu says talks could help advance Gaza ceasefire deal. Intense search for survivors continues amid fears of more flooding in Texas. Death toll climbs to 78, 41 still missing. And in sports, women's top seed Aryna Sabalenka and men's defending champion Carlos Alcaraz survived tough tests to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The BRICS leaders strongly condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and called for combating the cross-border movement of terrorists, terror financing and safe havens, even as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is in Brazil attending the summit, said that supporting terrorists for political gains should be unacceptable. Leaders of BRICS countries issued a 31-page, 126-point joint declaration reaffirming their commitment to combat terrorism in all its forms, including cross-border terrorism, financing and safe havens, rejecting any association with religion, nationality or ethnicity. They emphasized on zero tolerance, accountability and compliance with international law, including the UN Charter and human rights protocols. The leaders urged the swift adoption of the UN's Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism and actions against UN-designated terrorists, stressing on the rejection of double standards in global counter-terrorism efforts. In their joint declaration, BRICS leaders also advocated for a comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including the UN Security Council. The BRICS leaders sought to increase the representation of developing countries in the UNSC memberships. The grouping also stressed that reform of the UN Security Council would strengthen the voice of the Global South. The forum supported India and Brazil for permanent membership in the UNSC. The leaders' joint statement issued after the 17th BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro resonates with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's views in very broad terms, including the condemnation of terrorism in all its forms. Addressing a press conference, the MEA Secretary, Economic Relations, Damu Ravi said that BRICS group of countries have extended their strong support for a comprehensive convention on international terrorism, which has been India's initiative in the United Nations. The treaty proposed by India within the UN framework aims to provide a comprehensive legal basis for combating terrorism. It aims to define and criminalize various terrorist actions, ensuring that individuals who commit these acts can be prosecuted or extradited. The MEA Secretary said that the leaders' joint statement issued after the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday condemns manifestation of terrorism, including financing of it.
For India's point of view, most of our concerns have been very well captured. I would like to bring to you your attention on the para 6, where there is a very strong expression for reform of the global multilateral institutions, in particular the UN and the UN Security Council, in which countries of the Global South to play an active role. And this time, that para and that formulation has been further strengthened over the Kazan's formulation, where it got reiterated, reinforced in terms of India and Brazil to play an active role in international affairs and multilateral bodies.
Putting the spotlight on the terror attack in Pahalgam, Prime Minister Modi termed it as a reminder of terrorist threat to global peace and called for unwavering international solidarity.
In the session on strengthening multilateralism, economic, financial affairs and artificial intelligence, Honorable Prime Minister expressed that diversity and multipolarity were valued strengths of the BRICS. He added that BRICS could play an important role in shaping a multipolar world. In this context, he also gave few suggestions in terms of considering setting up a science and research repository in the BRICS groups by the Global South countries to focus on supply chains of the critical minerals.
At BRICS Summit, Prime Minister expressed that diversity and multipolarity were valued strengths of the BRICS. Damu Ravi reiterated Prime Minister's comments that BRICS could play an important role in shaping a multipolar world.
He reiterated that the global organizations of the 20th century lacked the capacity to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. And therefore, he underscored the importance of reforming the multilateral organizations. He called for a multipolar and inclusive world order and stated that the global governance institutions, particularly the UN Security Council, the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO must undergo urgent reform to reflect the contemporary realities and times.
The PM reiterated that the global organizations of the 20th century lacked the capacity to deal with the challenges of the 21st century, and therefore he underscored the importance of the reforming of the multilateral organizations.
Honorable Prime Minister underlined that terrorism was a grave threat facing humanity. In this context, he noted that all the leaders have condemned Pahalgam terrorist attack in strongest terms. He underlined that the attack, the Pahalgam attack, terror attack, is an onslaught on the entire humanity. He also noted that those funding, promoting and providing safe havens to terrorists must be dealt with in the harshest terms.
Addressing media, India's ambassador to Brazil, Dinesh Bhatia, said that India and Brazil are hoping to sign 4 memoranda of understanding. These will incorporate renewable energy, counter-terrorism, agricultural research cooperation between the Indian Council of Agricultural Research and the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, and also mutual production and exchange of confidential information.
After the talks, we are hoping to sign 4 agreements or /MOUs between the two countries, namely on renewable energy, counter-terrorism, agricultural research cooperation between ICAR, which is Indian Council for Agricultural Research, and Embrapa of Brazil, and also exchange and mutual protection of confidential information. These agreements have been finalized, and we are hoping to sign this on 8th of July.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with other leaders, participated in the traditional family photo session at the 17th BRICS Summit held at the Museum of Modern Art in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro. The family photo marked a significant moment of unity and collaboration among the countries that the grouping represents. The photo showed Brazilian President Lula da Silva and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, along with leaders and representatives of 7 other member countries with Prime Minister Modi. The Prime Minister stated that the moment reaffirmed the leaders' commitment to closer cooperation and shared growth, as the grouping holds immense potential to shape a more inclusive and equitable global future. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Vietnamese counterpart, Pham Minh Chinh, on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit in Brazil. Prime Minister Modi also met Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel on the sidelines of the summit. The two leaders warmly greeted each other. Both the leaders covered a wide range of subjects. Economic relations between both the nations have a lot of potential to grow in the coming times. Equally promising are sectors like technology, healthcare and energy. The growing acceptance of Ayurveda in Cuba is surely a great thing. The leaders also discussed ways to strengthen disaster management apparatus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a bilateral meeting with his Malaysian counterpart, Anwar Ibrahim. Malaysia is vital for India, having a key place in our vision, Mahasagar and Act East policy. The leaders reviewed the ground covered in the bilateral relations, including the progress made since Prime Minister Ibrahim's visit to India last year. Futuristic sectors like IT, renewable energy and infrastructure are those where bilateral ties are growing strong. Also discussed how to improve investment and trade relations between both the nations. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Iranian counterpart Saeed Abbas Araghchi on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders had a discussion focused on recent regional developments. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also met Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, Juan Ramon de la Fuente, in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders had discussed further advancement of our partnership, focusing on health, digital technology and space. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov and held a meeting on the sidelines of the 17th BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro. The leaders discussed bilateral cooperation, West Asia, BRICS and the SCO. The two leaders had earlier met in Johannesburg in February this year, where they had discussed the ongoing progress of bilateral cooperation between India and Russia. Let's get you some weather updates. Heavy rains drenched parts of Delhi and the entire national capital region on Monday morning, bringing much needed respite from the humidity that gripped the nation over the past several days. The Met Department has forecast thunderstorms and moderate showers to continue throughout the day, accompanied by strong winds. At the same time, a red alert warning for extremely heavy rains is in place for Himachal Pradesh and Maharashtra. Meanwhile, several states are on IMD's orange alert, including Haryana, Punjab, Gujarat, Uttarakhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand and West Bengal. Rescuers in Texas raced against time on Sunday to find dozens of missing people, including children, as severe flash floods in Texas have resulted in at least 78 deaths. Texas Public Safety Chief Freeman Martin warned that the death toll is expected to further rise. The authorities have confirmed that a total of 41 people are still missing. The floods occurred during the 4th of July holiday weekend, catching many off guard as rains worth months fell in just hours. The National Weather Service has warned of potential new flash floods due to slow-moving thunderstorms over saturated ground in central Texas. As questions grew about why warnings did not come sooner or the people were not evacuated earlier in the area popular with the campers, U.S. President Donald Trump said that the situation was a Biden setup.
Investigating whether some of the cuts to the federal government left key vacancies at the National Weather Service or the Emergency Coordination?
They did not. They did. I'll tell you, if you look at that what a situation that all is, and that was really the Biden setup. That was not our setup, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either. I would just say this is a 100-year catastrophe, and it's just so horrible to watch.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott warned of potential dangers over the next 24 to 48 hours, citing expected heavy rainfall that could lead to flash flooding in areas such as the Big Country, Contra Valley, Central Texas and Kerrville. Now, these regions are particularly vulnerable due to already saturated land, which increases the risk of rapid flash flooding events.
There are dangers over the next 24 to 48 hours that could pose public safety threats to people in these regions. There is heavy rainfall that's already occurred, and there's more heavy rainfall that's expected that will lead to potential flash flooding broadly in these regions: the Big Country, Concho Valley, Central Texas, and once again, Kerrville. The point is this, if you're in any of those regions, you need to realize, for one, you're in an area with land that's already saturated with water. But for another, when more water comes down, it could lead to rapid flash flooding events.
The Vistula River, Poland's largest and most iconic waterway, is facing an unprecedented crisis. In Warsaw, the river's water level has dropped to just 13 centimeters, marking the lowest measurement in recorded history. This alarming milestone is part of a broader trend. Rivers across Poland are drying up at a record pace. Currently, around 300 hydrological stations nationwide are reporting critically low water levels. Hydrological drought warnings have been issued across all provinces, affecting numerous rivers beyond the Vistula. As heat waves grip much of Europe, Poland is enduring temperatures nearing 35 degrees Celsius. These soaring temperatures, coupled with alarming lack of precipitation and low humidity in forested regions, are major contributors to the extreme drought conditions. Ironically, July is typically Poland's rainiest month. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. Stay with us.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. US President Donald Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are scheduled to meet at the White House on Monday. Now, this is Israeli Prime Minister's third visit since Trump returned to power in January. The hope for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza is riding high, as Trump said that there was a good chance of a hostage deal ahead of Netanyahu's meet. Indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas are underway in Qatar on Sunday, which sources say ended inconclusively. Still, Trump said the United States was working on a lot of things with Israel, including probably a permanent deal with Iran.
We're close to a deal on Gaza. We could have it this week. I think there's a good chance we have a deal with Hamas during the coming week, pertaining to quite a few of the hostages. Yeah. You know, we've gotten a lot of the hostages out, but pertaining to the remaining hostages, quite a few of them will be coming out. We think we'll have that done this week.
While leaving for the US, Netanyahu also believed his discussions with the US President Donald Trump on Monday would help advance talks on a Gaza hostage release and ceasefire deal. The first session of indirect Hamas-Israel ceasefire talks in Qatar ended inconclusively, adding that the Israeli delegation did not have sufficient mandate to reach an agreement with Hamas. Netanyahu's office said in a statement that changes sought by Hamas to the ceasefire proposal were not acceptable to Israel. However, his office said the delegation would still fly to Qatar to continue efforts to secure the return of our hostages based on Qatari proposal that Israel agreed to. Before departure, Netanyahu said that he believed he and Trump would also build on the conflict with Hamas and Iran.
This is an opportunity to expand the circle of peace far beyond what we could have imagined before. We've already transformed the face of Middle East beyond recognition, and we have the opportunity and ability to change it even more and bring a great future to the state of Israel, the people of Israel, and the entire Middle East. We are working to achieve the deal that has been discussed under the conditions we have agreed to. I've sent a team to negotiate with clear instructions. I believe the conversation with President Trump can definitely help advance this outcome.
Israel has said, meanwhile, that it carried out a wave of strikes on the Yemeni port city of Hodeidah and other areas held by the Houthi rebels early on Monday morning. In a statement, Israel said that its fighter jets had struck and destroyed terror infrastructure belonging to the Houthi terrorist regime. Among the targets were the ports of Hodeidah, Ras Isa and Salif and Ras Kanthim power plant. The statement further stated that the strikes were in response to the repeated attacks by the Houthi terrorist regime against the state of Israel. The attacks came around half an hour after an Israeli army spokesman warned of strikes at the sites on social media. A day after Musk escalated his feud with Trump and announced the formation of a new U.S. political party, U.S. President Donald Trump called Elon Musk's plan to form a new political party ridiculous, launching new barbs at the tech billionaire and saying that Musk ally he once named to lead NASA would have presented a conflict of interest given Musk's business interests in space.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Shortly after speaking about Musk, Trump posted further comments on his Truth Social platform saying, I quote, "I'm saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 years. Trump in his social media comments also said it was inappropriate to have named Musk ally Jad Isaacman as NASA administrator, considering Musk's business with the space agency. A Seoul court plans to hold a hearing on Wednesday to review a request by special prosecutors to detain former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. The special counsel team investigating Yoon's martial law declaration in December has filed a request to the Seoul Central District Court to detain Yoon on allegations of abuse of power and obstruction of justice. Yoon was formally stripped of office in April after being impeached and suspended by lawmakers over his December 3rd attempt to subvert civilian rule, which saw armed soldiers deployed to parliament. He eventually was taken into custody but released from jail after 52 days on technical grounds. The court last week dismissed an arrest warrant requested by the special counsel after Yoon initially refused to appear for questioning, citing that he had since expressed a willingness to comply with future summons. An Australian woman was convicted of murdering 3 elderly relatives of her estranged husband with a meal laced with poisonous mushrooms in a case that has gripped the country. Erin Patterson was charged with the murders of her mother-in-law, Gail Patterson, father-in-law, Donald Patterson, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, along with the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson, Heather's husband. On Monday, the jury in the case found her guilty of all the 4 charges. The court heard in Morwell, a town around 2 hours east of Melbourne, where the trial was being held. Patterson, who had pleaded not guilty to all charges, saying the deaths were accidental, will be sentenced at a later date. The US dollar hovered near its lowest since 2021 against the euro and the weakest since 2015 versus the Swiss franc on Monday, with traders alert for any trade-related headlines in the countdown to President Donald Trump's tariff deadline. The dollar slipped 0.1% early on Monday in Asia, edging back towards the July 1 low, a level not seen since January 2015. It also fell 0.1% to 144.49 yen. Most U.S. trade partners are set to see much steeper duties at the end of Trump's 90-day moratorium on Trump's Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday. So far, only Britain, China and Vietnam have agreed any sort of trade deal with the White House. On to sports now. Defending champion Carlos Alcaraz found his best form after a shaky start to beat Andrei Rublev and reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals. The Spaniard, hunting a 3rd straight title at the All-England club, won 6-7, 6-3, 6-4, 6-4. After losing the first set, Alcaraz turned the match around in style, producing some of his best tennis. He will next face Cameron Norrie, who is the last British player standing at Wimbledon after beating Chile's Nicolas Jarry in 5 grueling sets. Taylor Fritz also booked a place in the quarterfinals after Jordan Thompson retired. While women's world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, was given a tough workout by Elise Mertens, the Belarusian came through 6-4, 7-6 against her former doubles partner to reach the quarterfinals and set up a clash against Laura Siegemund. In another match, Amanda Anisimova ended Linda Noskova's run with a 6-2, 5-7, 6-4 victory to reach the quarterfinals. On to cricket now. Pacer Akashdeep took 10 wickets for the first time as India thrashed England by 336 runs in the second test at Edgbaston to level the series 1 each. Deep took 6 wickets for 99 runs as England were dismissed for 271 before tea on the 5th day. He had also grabbed 4 wickets in the first innings. India's captain Shubman Gill was named player of the match for his majestic 269 in the first innings and 161 runs in the second. Faced with the daunting task of chasing 608 runs to win, England's top order crumbled. Skipper Ben Stokes and Jamie Smith steadied the ship with a 70-run partnership of 115 balls, but Smith fell for 88. Bryden Cars provided entertainment with the bat as he went after the bowling. He was the last man out. He was also India's biggest away win by runs and had never won at Edgbaston's 8 tests, losing 7. The third test at Lord's starts on Thursday. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.